Hello, my name is Vic Gilgers, and in this short talk or session podcast, I want to help you be happier, enjoy life a bit better. And today I want to talk about whack-a-mole. Now, amusement arcades at the seaside have whack-a-moles. I think I might have been on one, so I'm not quite sure, but I've watched them. And there's holes in these consoles, I don't know, 4 or 5, and you have a mallet, and a mole pops his head up and you whack it, and then another mole pops his head up and you whack it, and that's called whack-a-mole. And I want to equate that as to, it's strenuous and it's quite enjoyable and it's a bit of fun. But the way I want to use it today is to talk of it in terms of the moles being thoughts that we don't like, and we like to have control over and say let them pass, or why are we having that thought? Go away, we don't like it, and so it's like whack-a-mole. So we whack it, and up pops another thought. And in fact, if I remember correctly, those machines, even if you don't whack a mole, another mole pops up anyway. I'm not quite sure, but basically you whack a mole and then another one pops up, and it's just like thoughts. And the thing about that is, and this is the analogy I'm making, is that thoughts are not real. They're not yours. You don't encourage them, you don't bring them on, and because of that, you say, I don't like this thought. You think you bring it on, you don't actually. It's not real. When I say it's not real, they're not your thoughts. They don't come from you. They come from some conditioned you. They come from some thoughts you have about things, which are habits, lessons that you've learned. But they're not the real you. They're not coming from you. And you think they are, and you think you've got to do it, but they're not. And because of that, they're not real. What is real, and thoughts are not real. They are made up. And so that gives you an example of what I'm talking about. That, in other words, what I'm saying is why whack a mole? Why don't you just leave the whole amusement, go away from the console of the moles, put the mallet down, walk away, walk out of the amusement arcade and get on with your life? But we don't. And what I'm saying is that all the time that you're whacking the mole, or thinking and dwelling on thoughts and saying you don't like them and you wish you could whack them away, you have not got inner peace, because that is not where the peace comes from. The peace comes from within, not from outside whacking the mole, not from outside analysing, or even saying letting the thoughts pass. The whole point about this is that the thoughts pass. You couldn't stop them coming in the first place. So how really do you think you can let them pass? You try. And that is where all the effort and energy comes in. And that is, in other words, the real change doesn't come from bearing down and whacking a mole and grinding away at the problem. The main thing comes from not attending to all that, walking away from all that into what is real, what is life. Now, when I say what is real, I'm thinking now of when we think, when we're just kind of in life, in the now. And I'm going to give you a particular example. I can lay on my bed and look in my bedroom at, say, a chest of drawers. Now, it's just a chest of drawers. But when I have thoughts about those chest of drawers, I remember at the time not being able to afford what I call a posh set of chest of drawers, which I wanted dovetailed, I wanted of hardwood, etc. And instead I got something made of boxwood that was screwed together and was cheap and cheerful. And I remember a neighbour of mine who liked period furniture once looking at this chest of drawers and saying, oh, making a derogatory remark, basically said it's like basically it wasn't as good as the chest of drawers that they've got, basically. And so when I look at those chest of drawers, they are more than a chest of drawers. They are that particular, and that's where the angst comes in, because we started to take our thoughts seriously, when in actual fact, it's just a chest of drawers. And when we can just accept life, because that's when you're, the only time you're really in life is not when you're in your head, in your thoughts. When thoughts, for example, are like any of the other senses of smell, of taste, of seeing, etc., hearing, is that we don't question them when they come. We don't say, oh, why did they arise? Because they are in front of us. They are there. We have no control over them coming into our life. When we're walking through a wood, we have no control over seeing the trees moving past us, or as we move past the trees and the path and the grass. We don't say it shouldn't be there, let it pass. We just accept, or the mindfulness is there that these are trees, that is grass, that is the path, and that is we are in real time with our thoughts, and that's quite peaceful, as against arguing with our thoughts, saying they shouldn't be there, etc. And so if you've ever looked into a book called A Course in Miracles, and in fact that is by the Foundation for Inner Peace, there's 3 parts to that A Course in Miracles, and one of the parts is there's a text, a workbook, and a teacher's manual. And in the workbook, the very first exercise from my memory is you are sat in a room looking at a chair, and you are asked to say, that is not a chair. That is not a chair. That is not a chair. And the whole object of that lesson is to get you to see that what you see in front of you, which you see as a chair, is just your perception of what it is, when in actual fact it's just atoms and molecules which have been turned through creation into wood, and that wood has been chopped up and carpentered and made into a chair. But it is not a chair. It only becomes a particular chair, like the chest of drawers in my bedroom, when we have thoughts about it. Otherwise, it is just there, and it should give us no grief. In fact, if it is an act of beauty, something to wonder at, we know that because we feel that, we sense that just through looking, not thinking, but just getting the feeling of it. So I mentioned there A Course in Miracles, and in the preface to A Course in Miracles, there is a summary of the book. And from my memory, it says, what is unreal does not exist. What is real cannot be threatened. Herein lies the peace of God. That's quite profound, because relating it across, thoughts are not real. And so a thought cannot harm us. Yet how much do they keep us awake? How much do they harm us? How much can they destroy us? Through nervous tension, through suicides, they can destroy us. And they're also, that is the gift we've been given of thought, is that they can be beautiful. So I'm trying to explain that when we move away from thoughts and go to the place within, we get that inner peace, because we are now back to just our senses, really. And Another explanation of this is I can give is through a story written by a chap called Guy Findlay, and it's a great story. In summary, this young lady has a day off. She's at the seaside, or she's gone to the seaside. She gets up early, and she walks past this amusement arcade where things are being set up and the place is being opened. She wanders around this small town, enjoys herself, and then later in the day, during the day, she notices that queues have built up in this arcade. A queue in particular, a long queue at a particular attraction, very popular. Anyway, at the end of the day, she's walking past the arcade and the caretaker is closing things down or what have you. And she wanders across to have a word with him because she's inquirous about this phenomena that she's seen, about this particular machine and the queues of people queuing up to look in. It's like a what the butler saw type of thing. And she says to him, what is the big attraction? Why is there the long queue? The caretaker said, oh God, it's by far the most popular attraction here. And he says, people queue to look at it, they are shocked by what they see, and they often run away crying, jumping up and down, kind of upset by what they've seen. And he said, but the weird phenomena is that the number of times I see the same people coming back for another look into this machine. And I think that is a really good story. It's a story like saying, why do we want to pick a scab? We do. Why do we want to go there? Why do we want the naughtiness? Why do we want anything like that when in actual fact it can harm us? But maybe that's human nature. But what can we do about being human? We are human beings. We can, humanness is there in the wanting to look at that attraction, and the being is the fact that we are more than that. It's the other side of the coin. We are just being. And so when we go across to that, to this, it's the opposite of, it's before thought, not being in thought, not being involved with all the ups and downs, the roller coaster of thought, which can be very exciting, but in the end, it's like a roller coaster ride, just leaves you back where it finds you, and it hasn't moved you forward, because none of those things ever move you forward. You're just back to where you started. Because if thought ever did anything, or any of the techniques did anything, then we would be cured. There would be no mental illness. And what I'm saying is that in actual fact, the mental illness is often caused through thoughts, through mal thoughts, bad thoughts, awkward thoughts, dwelling on thoughts, upsetting thoughts. But they're not real. They are not what life is made of. They have no substance. They are what is made up. Not by us, they're not real. I've said this right at the beginning. It's the who we think we are that makes all this up, and we are not who we think we are. We're more than that. And our essence, which is where our inner peace is, which is not up and down on the roller coaster, we can always go there easily by knowing it's not where thought is. It's the opposite of that. It's before thought. And when we go there, that's where the juice is. That's where the peace is. That is where, in actual fact, we are fully present with what is. We are living life now. And that is not what thought does. Thought is often about the past. Thought is often about the future. Thought is never in the now. And there is an example of what thought really is. The past is over. It no longer exists. The future doesn't exist because it hasn't happened yet. So thought deals with what is not real. What is real is now, and we can go there anytime. We've got it, and that's what has our back. That is creation. That has always been there, and it always helps us to survive. So stop the whack-a-mole. Yeah. So, so I hope that helps, and thank you for listening.